My mom tried to steal my birthday penthouse, a gift from my grandma, to give it to her new fiancé. My name's Emily 15F, and honestly, this past year has been a roller coaster. Like, I don't even know where to start, but maybe my birthday is a good place? Okay, so I turned 15 a few weeks ago, and my grandma, who, by the way, is this total spitfire of a woman, gave me the wildest birthday gift. She handed me the keys to a freaking penthouse apartment. I'm not joking. She's had this place for years, but only uses it occasionally when she's in the city for work or errands. And now, she just gave it to me, like outright said, "It's yours now, sweetheart. Happy birthday." I mean, imagine being 15 and owning a penthouse. I didn't even know how to process it. At first, I thought she was joking, but nope. She had all the paperwork ready to go. And honestly, it couldn't have come at a better time because, let's just say, things have been rough at home lately. To give you some context, my parents split up about a year ago. And when I say split, I mean my dad literally packed a bag, texted us goodbye, and just left. No big fight, no dramatic scene, just a text saying, "I can't do this anymore." I remember sitting on the couch with my little brother, Max, he's 8, trying to act like it wasn't a big deal, but inside, I was completely falling apart. Anyway, my mom got full custody of us, and Dad, he has visitation rights, but hasn't used them. Not once. It's like he just vanished from our lives. And it's not like I don't understand why the divorce happened. My parents have been fighting for ages, but still, it felt like he walked out on me, not just Mom. Then, as if that wasn't enough, 3 months after the divorce, my mom started dating this guy named Robert. He's fine, I guess? I mean, he's polite and everything, but there's something about him that feels off. Maybe it's just me being overprotective of my mom or whatever, but they got engaged really fast, like too fast. It's been less than a year since my dad left, and now she's planning a wedding? I've tried talking to her about it, but she just brushes me off, saying, "Emily, I deserve to be happy." And I get that. I really do. But it feels like she's rushing into this without thinking about what's best for Max or me. And here's the kicker. They're planning to move to another state after the wedding. But Robert doesn't want me to come. Yeah, you heard that right. He told my mom that I'm too old to bond with him as a stepdad, and it would be easier if it was just her and Max. My mom actually sat me down and told me this like it was no big deal. I tried so hard not to cry in front of her, but I was devastated. That's when my grandma stepped in. She was furious when she found out and insisted I move in with her. And honestly, I couldn't pack my bags fast enough. Living with grandma has been different, but in a good way. She's super independent and sharp as a tack, and she doesn't take crap from anyone. And now, with the whole penthouse thing, it's like she's giving me this fresh start after everything that's happened. I don't know what I did to deserve her, but I'm beyond grateful. Anyway, that's where things are right now. I'm trying to adjust to all the changes, but it's a lot. And something tells me this whole Robert situation isn't over yet. So moving in with Grandma was supposed to be a fresh start, right? And at first it was... Her house is this cozy little place with a garden in the back where she grows tomatoes, and it always smells like lavender because she's obsessed with those little sachets you put in drawers. Plus, she gives the best advice. Not just the "you should do this" kind, but the really wise, "let me tell you a story about when I was your age" kind. It's like she has a whole library of life lessons she pulls from whenever I'm feeling lost. But of course, life didn't stay peaceful for long. It all started a week after my birthday, when my mom found out about the penthouse. I have no idea how she found out. Maybe Grandma mentioned it to someone, or maybe Mom just has some kind of radar for anything involving me. But she called me, and let me tell you, it wasn't a casual, "Hey, how are you doing?" kind of call. Emily, she started in that tight, fake calm voice she uses when she's about to lose it. "I heard about the apartment. Why didn't you tell me?" I paused because, honestly, what was I supposed to say? I didn't think it was a big deal. Total lie. I knew it was a big deal, but I didn't want to deal with her reaction. "Well, it is a big deal," she snapped. "Robert and I were talking, and we think it might make more sense for your grandmother to transfer the apartment to us. You know, for the family." I swear, I almost dropped my phone. "Wait, what? The apartment isn't yours. It's mine. Grandma gave it to me for my birthday." "Yes, but think about it," she said, her tone shifting to that overly sweet, manipulative one she uses when she's trying to convince me to do something. "Robert and I could really use it to get started in the city before the move. And if we had it, Maybe we could reconsider bringing you along with us. Wouldn't that be nice? I was stunned. Like, my jaw literally dropped. She was basically saying, give us the apartment or stay behind. I could feel my face getting hot and my hands started shaking. Mom, no, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. This isn't some bargaining chip. Grandma gave it to me. It's not up for discussion. Emily, don't be selfish, she shot back, her voice sharpening. We're trying to build a future for this family, and you're acting like a spoiled little girl. That did it. I hung up. I couldn't listen to her anymore. Later that night, I told Grandma about the call, and oh boy, was she mad. I've never seen her so angry. She slammed her teacup down on the table and said, over my dead body will I let that man take what's yours. I felt a little better knowing she had my back, but I couldn't shake this growing pit in my stomach. I mean, who does that? Who tries to guilt-trip their own kid into giving up something so personal? A few days later, things got even weirder. My dad showed up out of nowhere. Like, I came home from school, and there he was sitting at the kitchen table with Grandma, drinking coffee like it was the most normal thing in the world. I froze in the doorway because, honestly, I didn't know how to feel. I hadn't seen him in over a year. Hey, Em, he said, standing up and giving me this awkward half-smile. You've grown. I wanted to say something snarky like, yeah, that's what happens when you abandon your kids. But instead, I just said hi. Grandma patted the chair next to her. Sit down, honey. Your dad has some things he needs to tell you. And that's when the bombshells started dropping. First, he admitted that he and Mom had been on the rocks for years before the divorce. He said they stayed together for the kids, but it was clear they both resented each other. Okay, fine, I kind of already knew that. Emily, there's something you should know about Robert, he said, leaning forward like he was about to share some deep, dark secret. Apparently, Robert and my mom knew each other before she even met my dad. They dated briefly in college, but it ended badly. Dad didn't go into details, but he hinted that Robert wasn't exactly the most trustworthy guy. Your mom didn't tell me about him until after we got married, Dad said, running a hand through his hair. When I found out she was seeing him again, I couldn't believe it. I didn't handle it well, and I'm sorry for how I left, but I needed to get out of that situation. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. Everything suddenly clicked. The rushed engagement, the way Mom defended Robert no matter what, the weird vibe I got from him. It was like she was trying to rewrite history or something to make up for whatever happened between them in the past. By the time Dad finished talking, I didn't even know what to say. I just sat there staring at the table, my head spinning. After that conversation with my dad, I couldn't stop thinking about what he'd said. Like, my brain was doing that annoying thing where it replays every little detail over and over again. The idea that Robert had some shady history with my mom made my skin crawl. But the worst part? Mom knew. She knew and still let him waltz into our lives like everything was fine. I didn't know what to do with all that information. Part of me wanted to confront her, but I already knew how that would go. She'd either deny it or flip it back on me, like she always does. So instead, I just stewed in my anger for a few days, which in hindsight wasn't the best coping strategy. Things came to a head the following weekend. Mom called again, and this time, she wasn't trying to play nice. Emily, she started, skipping the fake pleasantries altogether. I'm serious about this apartment. Have you talked to your grandmother yet? I was already on edge, so I snapped. Mom, I told you the answer is no. The apartment isn't yours. It's mine. End of story. She let out this frustrated sigh, the kind that makes you feel like you're the unreasonable one. Do you even understand what you're doing? You're choosing a thing over your family. Over me. I'm your mother, Emily. I could feel my face getting hot. No, you're choosing him over me. You're the one who decided I wasn't convenient enough to take with you, remember? You're the one who's making me stay behind. My voice cracked, and I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. And now you want to take the one thing that actually gives me some security? No. I'm done, Mom. There was this long, heavy silence on the other end of the line. For a second, I thought maybe she'd hung up, but then she said, in this cold, clipped tone, "You're just like your father. Selfish and ungrateful." And that's when I lost it. You know what? Maybe I am like him, but at least he didn't sell me out for some guy he barely knows. I hung up before she could say anything else. My hands were shaking so hard I had to sit down. Grandma came into the room a minute later, probably because I wasn't exactly being quiet, and she just hugged me. Didn't say anything, just held me until I stopped shaking. And honestly, I needed that more than anything. But of course, the drama wasn't over. Because later that night, Mom showed up. I was in the living room watching TV when I heard the doorbell. Grandma opened it, and there she was, standing on the porch with Robert right behind her. I felt my stomach drop. "Emily," Mom said, her voice all business. "We need to talk." Grandma stepped in front of me like a human shield. "You can talk to her here in my house, under my rules," she said, crossing her arms. "And Robert stays outside." Robert opened his mouth to argue, but Grandma didn't even look at him. She just pointed to the porch swing and said, "Sit down." He actually listened, which honestly was kind of satisfying. Mom came inside, and the second she saw me, she launched into this whole speech about how I was being unreasonable, how I was putting her in a difficult position, blah, blah, blah. But then she said something that made my blood run cold. "If you don't do this, Emily, don't expect me to fight Robert on bringing you with us. You'll stay here, alone." I stood up so fast, I almost knocked over the coffee table. "Are you seriously blackmailing me right now? Over an apartment? Do you even hear yourself?" She looked at me like I was the one being dramatic. "I'm trying to give you a chance to be part of this family, Emily. But you have to meet me halfway." I couldn't even look at her. "No, you're trying to manipulate me. And guess what? It's not going to work." She started to say something else, but Grandma cut her off. "That's enough. I won't let you guilt this child into giving up what's rightfully hers. If you have any ounce of decency left, you'll leave. Now." Mom's face went pale, but she didn't argue. She just turned around and walked out, slamming the door behind her. I heard her say something to Robert on the way out, but I couldn't make out the words. And honestly, I didn't care. After Mom stormed out that night, it felt like the air in the house was heavier than usual. I mean, how do you even process something like that? Your own mother trying to manipulate you into giving up something that was meant to help you start over, just so she could use it to fix a life she'd already chosen to leave you out of. It was a lot. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. I didn't hear from Mom, and honestly, I didn't reach out either. I thought maybe she needed time to cool off, but deep down, I knew better. She wasn't going to let this go. Not with Robert in her ear. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. It was a Saturday morning, and I was sitting at the kitchen table with Grandma, eating pancakes when the doorbell rang. Grandma went to answer it, and I heard voices, hers, my mom's, and Robert's. Of course. I braced myself as they walked into the kitchen. Mom looked tired, like she hadn't slept in days. Robert, on the other hand, looked smug, like he had already won some argument I didn't know we were having. "Emily," Mom said, her voice softer than usual. "We need to talk. All of us." I glanced at Grandma, who gave me a little nod like it's okay. "I'm here." So I folded my arms and said, "Fine. Talk." Mom sat down across from me, and Robert stayed standing, which felt weirdly intimidating. "Look," she began, "I know we've had our differences lately, and I know you're upset with me. But I'm here because I want to make this right." I raised an eyebrow. "By make this right, do you mean you're finally going to drop the apartment thing?" Her face tightened, and I knew the answer before she even opened her mouth. "Emily, I'm asking you to think about what's best for everyone. Robert and I." "Nope," I interrupted, cutting her off. "We're not doing this again. I've already told you no like 100 times. Why can't you just let it go?" Robert stepped forward then, and his voice was calm, almost too calm. "Emily, I get that you're young and don't see the bigger picture, but your mom and I are trying to build a life together. A life that could include you, if you're willing to work with us." "Work with you?" I repeated, laughing bitterly. "You mean give you what you want? That's not working together. That's just you being manipulative." He frowned, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of something darker in his expression. "You're making a mistake," he said evenly. "This stubbornness of yours, it's not going to end well." Grandma stood up then, and let me tell you, when my grandma gets mad, it's like the whole room gets colder. "That's enough," she said, her voice like steel. "You don't get to come into my house and threaten my granddaughter. Get out." Robert looked like he wanted to argue, but Mom grabbed his arm. "Let's go," she said quietly. He hesitated, then gave me one last look, this weird mix of anger and pity, before turning and walking out the door. Mom followed, but not before looking back at me and saying, "You're going to regret this, Emily. You'll see." And just like that, they were gone. Here's the thing, though. Mom was wrong. I didn't regret it. Not for a second. Because a week later, everything fell apart for her and Robert. Apparently, he had been keeping secrets of his own. Big ones. I don't know all the details, but from what Grandma heard through the grapevine, Robert had some serious financial problems. And by serious, I mean he owed a lot of money to some very angry people. Once Mom found out, the engagement was over. He left her high and dry, and she was stuck trying to pick up the pieces. She called me a few days later, crying and apologizing, saying she didn't know what she'd been thinking and that she needed me. Part of me wanted to feel bad for her, but I couldn't. Not after everything she'd put me through. I told her I was sorry she was hurting, but I wasn't ready to forgive her yet. Maybe someday, but not now. Meanwhile, Dad stepped up in a way I never expected. He started visiting more, not just to see me, but to fight for custody of Max. He said he regretted leaving the way he did and that he wanted to make things right. I didn't trust him right away. It's not like you can erase a year of abandonment with a few apologies. But he's been consistent, and Max seems happier when he's around. So maybe there's hope for him after all. As for me, I'm still living with Grandma, and I've decided to keep the penthouse. I don't know what I'll do with it yet. Maybe I'll rent it out or save it for when I'm older. But it's my safety net. My reminder that I don't need to rely on anyone who doesn't have my best interests at heart.